What's up? So my name's Jake. I'm going to be doing a daily study today. I am in my kitchen. This is my fifth attempt at doing this. I was over there because lighting was kind of bad. But hello. Um, Hi. The idea of this is going to be I am going to show you how to do a daily study and how to do it that will help you improve tenfold in your art. And if you just bear with me in explaining my process, my reasoning for it, I guarantee it is going to be extremely beneficial if you'd like to go under this undertaking. But if not, this will simply just be a story, not really a story, a stream of consciousness of what has helped me absolutely tremendously in my artistic career and has completely and utterly leveled me up and made me like 30 times better just purely doing this process. Of course, I've done other things in addition to that have helped, but I feel like this thing has been the single repeatable thing that I've done in my career that has very much sparked a wide array of improvement all over any of my artistic doings. So, buckle in. Here we go. All right, so into the video. So, what do I mean by this has helped me tenfold, and what is so special about this process that I'm undertaking? Well, if you actually look into the video right now and see what I'm kind of doing, I'm using an application called Obsidian, which is basically a note taking application. And I have a pre process laid out for whenever I get into a painting. So, I have a bunch of headers there listed that essentially I just use to like very point the direction of how the painting will go. It basically lets me not worry about like getting off track and things like that. I highly recommend this. I highly recommend this whole process, not just as like a I feel like I've solved like the mystery of art, but more like just because I've tried a lot of things as well, and if you feel like you've tried a lot of things to get better, and you feel like some things just don't stick with you or what have you, or can be boring, then I highly recommend to try this because it's helped me a lot, and it really isn't like I don't know, I don't find it boring, so I continuously come back to it and find it more entertaining than most of the things I do. So in addition to a pre-painting process, which kind of just takes the direction of where I want to go with the painting, I also, of course, have a very specific material in mind. So I usually do master studies. These master studies are going to be high quality master studies that are going to be like I would say anywhere in the ballpark of like 5,000 pixels or higher. The reason why is because I can see like the decisions that the masters were making, and you got to remember that these are masters. They are masters of their craft, so every decision they made is like purposeful and a lot more correct than yours is, especially when you're learning. So the idea is that you're always taking into consideration decisions that were made by someone that knows what they're doing better than you. Whereas like other things you study from, there's something that can get in the way that is someone else's decision. Um, like in the actual image you're looking at. So, just as an example, which I would argue is the best thing to do other than master studies, is a still life. Even with still lifes, you can have a composition that is wrong. That like by wrong I mean it's just a bad composition. You might not realize it at the time, and then you waste your time studying from it, and then partly from it, it could skew something later down the road. It could just have compounding effects that you don't fully understand yet. So to minimize anything in that ballpark of like gathering bad reference, studying bad material, and what have you, that's why I primarily stick to master studies because I feel like when it comes to making the decisions in the painting that I have to make, and I'm already wrestling with how I'm going to make them, like and how my process is and how I'm going to deal with these complicated pieces in a short amount of time. I need the material to not be basically giving me any false information or lies. So that's why I stick to primarily high quality master studies. In addition to that, I do them in a very short time frame. So I'm going to be doing it for 45 minutes. This study is for 45 minutes, and I will primarily do it every time for 45 minutes, besides my last one I do of the week. Now, you don't have to do it like this. Um, this is irrelevant. I just say keep it short. The reason why you want to keep it short is because you need it to be short enough to where you have to make big decisions and deal with complicated decisions in a short amount of time. Because if you increase the time too much, you will not have to be definitive in your decisions. You can just kind of like, I guess, kind of fall your way into the right decision eventually if you keep noodling. But also, you could just waste your time doing things you should not be doing. So, for instance, like I understand that I need to get these shapes in quickly, I need to find the form quickly, and I need to get the color in quickly. I need to do it within like 10 or 15 minutes. If I don't do that, then I'm just going to have a very hard time dealing with this piece. Whereas if I have hours and hours, hours, I could get lost into one thing, dealing with it and dealing with it and dealing with it. But I could honestly spend hours and hours and hours, and the piece could completely fail, and I've wasted my time, and I have not understood what I needed to do to get it to the correct point. So, highly recommend keeping it short, because it will force yourself and your mind to realize that, like, the decisions they need to make a complicated piece in a short amount of time. Um, Going into the next phase of this, now that we've done a pre-process, we've decided a master, we've decided we're going to do it for 45 minutes, and we found our high quality reference. The only other things I would do in addition to this before I get into the painting is that I will try and find, like, I would pre-find all 7 of my pieces for that master, and I will kind of look into the master and also just figure out what they're doing at that time frame. I'm not doing like a deep dive into history, but I will look up, okay, what's the significance of each of the paintings? When did they paint them? And then, like, what is the significance of the painter? So, like, I might vaguely know a painter, but I go and like read their Wikipedia summary or what have you. I'll just look into it more, and it's been more enjoyable for me to like kind of do a little bit of an art history lesson, because as someone that takes this very seriously, it's very beneficial for me to also learn about art history, and it's kind of a fun way to do it as well. You also notice looking at this painting that I'm painting it rather small. Um, this is not that small for me because I have a drawing tablet that's pretty big, but it's still small. I would say it's 4 inches, maybe 3 or 4 inches. And I'm doing the whole painting in that, and I will try my best to not really ever change, besides maybe a little bit, the actual reference photo. And when I'm dealing with the beginning of the painting, I will try and not change my own very much, because I wanted to establish forms and shapes early on. And the best way to do that is to kind of like, if I can look at them smaller and like squint, I can both negotiate like color and lost and found edges. And then I can also, deal with the proportions a lot easier when it's smaller. I can say, oh yeah, this is only taking up this much of the image, even though if I'm zooming in, it's kind of hard for your brain to wrap around it if it's not taking all of that information in at once. It's only taking like a subsection of it. So I do recommend keeping it small as well, but you don't have to, whatever works for you. It's just that whenever I'm doing this, I'm always thinking, I always go into the pre and post process wondering about the process itself. So I think that's probably the number one thing you should focus on in these reviews, is that you should look, okay, in my process, what was the flaw? In the post process, you'll navigate that, and then you'll tell yourself what should be better the day going after that. So for a while, for instance, I had a lot of studies that I was doing where the problem was, I felt in my heart the drawing was the problem. So I completely eliminated things in the I stopped using brushes with opacity. I only used opaque brushes. So I was basically just painting like a someone that uses gouache. And I ended up, the drawings did look significantly better, but I lost the painting aspect of it. So you then realize, okay, well, my drawing is better, and I feel like I'm the actual fundamental piece of it is going better. So then, but my painting side of it feels like it's lost or it's not as good. So then I have to then wrestle with that question of, okay, now that I've come to terms with that, how do I make the drawing improve and be stronger while keeping the painting alive? So then I'm like, okay, what part of the process do I need to change? And I'll either write all of this down or what I feel like is the most important parts. That's why I have a lot of those headers, so I can get as much information as I can down, so I can navigate all this information the next day or the day of, or it's basically just journaling. All you're doing is just journaling about the painting, but you're being very precise about what you're journaling about, and also like what you're actually doing in the study. And we'll go into this when you'll see it a little bit when it pops up, but I'll pull up the actual daily study of that day in general, and I'll show you, or excuse me, I'll tell you about what I wrote. So if you look at these studies when you're doing them, I first go into it with, what is my focal point? Obviously, it's this woman. I'll go, what is my plan of attack? This is essentially what I was talking about, where I was navigating my process. I know I'm going to try and identify the shapes, turn those shapes into form, or identify the form, and then I'll go in and try and add whatever warm and cool or colors or contrast to form details. Now, contrast is kind of a silly word to use there, but I knew what I meant when I was going into it, because this is really for me, not for anyone else, right? So I knew what I meant, and that's why I did it. And I also identify what is the underpainting color, and that's mainly just because it's oil, and oil is very transparent. It's not very. It can be opaque, but when it's thin, it's not. So you almost always can see that underpainting color. And I think keeping a little bit of transparency in everything you do can breathe so much more life into paintings in general. But that's a whole other tangent. And then we're about to see the post process here, but in the post painting, I ask a bit more questions. I don't think you need to ask all of these. I just have added them over time, and you can change or add them as you will. But what did we take away from this painting? So just like, what was a surprise during it? Did I stick to the same process, is another question I ask, or did I change it? The problems that occurred during this painting. So just this is one of the most important things. So obviously, like, what did I struggle with? But my thoughts, I try to get those out as well. It's one of those headers. But the tomorrow section after those two is the most important one, and you'll start to see this here. But tomorrow is where I write, okay, what do I change about the process? What do I not change about the process? What it is that I felt like I was lacking or not lacking through these like kind of journal entries, and what do I take in to the next day. So for me, I was still trying to find my process here, because I had taken a large break for a bit when I started doing this one, just because like life was lifing. And so I just wanted to refine that process more, make sure it was working. So I said, same process as today. Well, that's it. Thank you for stopping in. Come check me out at twitch.tv/paintboy, and have a great day or a good night. Take care. Bye-bye.